Saturday night, it's party night. It's time to Club Buggery. Tonight, This Sporting Life presents Club Buggery live from Ray's Big Jobby here in Australia. Club Buggery proudly features on song the Nissan Cedrics.
Flowers are dancing, spring in the air, perfume and birds, pollen in my hair. Everything's bursting like bunny blood plums. All we need are our buggery charms.
And shouting when the sloop's on the droop, fly the coop, Australia's brand new Beatles. And now, would you please give a big warm Australian welcome to our hosts for the night, direct from the Floating Palace restaurant, rampaging Roy Slavin and H.G. Nelson!
Yes, thanks very much. Ian Taps Tabby, thanks very much. Brand new Beatles, thanks very much. Nissan Cedrics, cooey customers, and welcome to Club Buggery on another Saturday night when too much variety will be barely enough. Tonight, Club Buggery comes to you live from Ray's Big Jobby, here in the Galaxy Room at Randwick. And to torch the wick on another week of action, danger, romance, intrigue and adventure in the Bug House, let's simply ask rampaging Roy Slavin, which issue have you plucked from the tissues this week, pal?
Thank you very much, H.G. Nelson. Look, I woke up this morning, I wanted to have a terrific day.
Yes.
Davis Cup. Bloody hell, why do we bother? Why do we bother turning up? Why do we always pick this stupid, big, bloody Philippoussis nonsense? Double full after double full, couldn't return serve, did nothing, no stutter step, no volleying, no ground strokes, wrong shorts, looked wrong, racket. I don't know if he had strings in it or not. Why did he bother turning up? So it's up to the Woodies.
Well,
and they're not talking to each other. The Woodies who hate each other's guts. I mean, it's all over. And I thought it was going to be like 53 all over again. As Duke said, we're going to be 2 up, then it'd go 2-1, 2-2, come down to the wire, Philippoussis goes out against Chang, we'd win 3-2, we'd feel strong champions, we'd be able to walk proud again, stand tall as a nation. It's not going to happen.
And you haven't even mentioned the rafter kitty and all his problems. No poke, no grunt where it matters, you know.
When it really matters. I mean, who cares about the US Open? Davis Cup is what matters.
Australia!
Australia!
Yes, fighting as a nation.
That's right.
Out there against the dominance of America.
Yes.
With only a racket and a bloody pair of Volio season
That's
shorts
right.
that you had to borrow from somebody in the hotel for you.
Yes.
Out there to wear.
And an idea.
Oh, that's right, about how to play tennis.
Because I had it with Americans. The next American I see, I'm going to bloody...
Well, that mightn't be long, Roy. And with that as a way of setting the scene here in Ray's Big Jobby, it's time to welcome a man who's been an easy rider and a wild angel, but in his new film, he's a beekeeper. Nissan Cedrics, can you get out on the highway and in your born to be wild best style, give us the Peter Fonda story. Yes, thanks very much for coming in, Peter, and I'm very impressed by the jacket, given your previous film work over the years. Very fitting item.
I should have come in with a beekeeping outfit on, yeah.
Indeed, and you're here to promote, you're in Australia at the moment, amongst other things, to promote a new film called Yuli's Gold,
yes,
in which you play the central character. We've got a clip from the film now. I should explain that you're a beekeeper.
Do I really believe this? I mean, you know, I've been warned about you guys. We have a group in the United States called Siegfried and Roy. You're nothing like that. They deal with big cats.
Yes,
oh,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, we explain everything as we go along, unlike Siegfried and Roy.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, they don't explain much.
No, that's right, that's right. Now, Yuli's Gold, you play Ulysses Jackson, the key character. The family's falling apart in a variety of ways, and your son, who's in jail, is having trouble with a couple of lowlifes who you go down and confront in this scene here.
Figure we can make good use of that money. Invest it in such till he gets out.
I won't have anything to do with Jimmy's crap, Eddie. You want to get me home? Fine.
Eddie? Will you shut up, Ferris? Mr. Jackson, I don't think you quite understand.
Save it, Eddie. I think I better get going.
Call him off, Eddie. This isn't helping anything.
Yes. It's a wonderful scene, and the drama unfolds from there on because you're on the lam and the lads are after you and so on. Now, people say that you shouldn't work with dogs and children, but in this film you work with bees. What's it like working with bees in a lot of times?
Actually, it was quite nice. Once I understood right away that you're calm when you go into a bee yard, because the bees can sense if you've got any fear and they panic. And their job is to protect the queen and go gather the honey, of course. So you just do everything calmly. You don't make fast movement. This means you could be killing the queen or after you get stung. You don't wear anything with a scent and wear just bland colored clothes, nothing bright, and be calm. I managed to do that. As a matter of fact, I figured if they could sense fear and make them panic, that they might sense compassion and not worry. Because I was very worried about hurting the bees. I wasn't worried about them hurting me. I put the supers back on top of the hives. I think I'm going to crush some of these little things. And, you know, bees have been doing what they've been doing for millions of years, much longer than we've been doing whatever we've been doing, trying to find civilization.
But the bees themselves, you know, in a film are not necessarily an easy thing to train, for want of a better term.
No,
and so you have to work at their pace.
I was supposed to be bitten in the script, and there was supposed to be a thing that I did, and actually I did get stung once. But what do? You say, bee wrangler, bring the stinging bee in now, please, from Mr. Fonda's hand. You know, you can't do it, so... I mean, I just did this at one moment because there was a bee that was about to sting me, but it didn't happen. As I say, I think the bees felt my compassion, but I didn't want to hurt them.
Does the smoke calm them down, Peter? I've often wondered why people use smoke with bees.
Well, and it's a very special way the smoke's done.
Yeah.
It's like what we call Georgia fatwood. It's that kind of very pitchy pine stuff down below. That's where the fire is. On top of that, there are pine needles, then leaves, and then green grass. So when the smoke gets up, it's already cooled off. You don't want to have hot smoke on the bees. And it's not that it calms them down, it excites them sexually. That's bizarre. It excites them sexually, and I guess they get calm looking around, who's the next, you know, whatever.
Yes. And so they're less inclined to bite you if they're sexually aroused.
No, that must be it.
Yeah.
All I know is that I worked it, you don't give too much smoke, and you give enough, and it's hot. I mean, when I touched the can, it was hot, but it worked for the bees.
Speaking of smoke, I remember years ago we had on the program Jack Nicholson, and Jack said no one could roll a spliff like you. This is in the old days. He said your logs were absolute, well, his words were blast and mind-blowing. Now, obviously you put those days behind you.
Well, yeah, but I did, I'll admit, love to be on screen doing a one-paper zigzag roll, you know?
Yeah.
Here you go, George. Oh, no, thanks, I got some store-bought of my own right here. we could do the whole film. I remember all the dialogue, all the parts. Yeah, those were the older days. I wonder, how did we get that film done?
Because there was a fair bit of method acting, I assume, with Easy Rider, Peter, without putting too fine a point on
if you
it.
remember, most of the time I had a very kind of existential look on my face, or enigmatic, and I said things like, wow.
Yeah.
Far out. You know. Beautiful, man. Wow. And tell the big line, we blew it. And that one I threw away, but I wasn't, how you say, in an altered state.
No.
No, I'd just come off a tremendous argument with Dennis about what I was going to say and what I wasn't going to say, so I was pretty straight. I imagine if I tried that today, I'd get that much work done. You notice my fingers are touching.
Yeah. But you have had a history of working in small independent films rather than your large studio films. Now, that must have its advantages. Can you therefore, is it easier to make the sort of film you want to make with a smaller group than it is with the larger studio?
Yes, I think so. That's my experience. And my hat's off to Mel Gibson for Braveheart, because that was a tremendous production with all kinds of problems. And he made it happen beautifully. But in fact, the smaller film, the more independent film, the less you have to worry about the suits coming down and trying to tell you how to make the film. What's happened in Hollywood today is the deal has become more important than the project. Yes. I mean, if the project tanks, the guys who made the deal say, it was terrible, man, it was the best deal we made this year. That's right. And I mean, it's true. What's this red stuff?
It's largely
something Jack Nicholson left, actually. We haven't dared drink it. No. We thought we'd produce it for you because you might be the only person who might be able to wrangle it.
It looks something like Jack. I call Jack Johnny Hot.
Yeah, so hot. Now, can I ask a question about Victor Nunez, if that's how you say his surname? Nunez. The director, but he's not only the director, he's the writer, he's the camera operator, he's the editor, he almost does every function on a film.
Exactly.
You've got the bees as one problem. Now, Victor is going to be another problem in this. Can you tell us a little bit about his background and his method of work?
Well, in fact, he did a lot of film study. He was a graduate from the Florida Film Institute. He worked with AFI. He taught at USC in the film school, and he was one of the founding members of Sundance, the place that Robert Redford has for independent film festivals. And one of the things about Victor is we call it an auteur. I don't know if the same word plays here. And when we think of auteur, we go, uh-oh, here comes Mr. Ego, here comes Mr. Ego. And you have to have an ego to not just, I mean, write. Yes, of course, write it, direct it, operate the camera. When he said that part, I took a half step back. And then I realized that who better to have looking at the ground glass than the man who knows what he wants in his heart and his mind. So he'll know when he has the scene. And edits the film. He prints everything. He doesn't have a script clerk, which is a little bit scary for an actor that's used to working in a certain kind of way. But I felt very confident working with him. As a matter of fact, he's made 4 films in 20 years, Yuli being his 4th. And the same core group comes to work with him on each of his films. This is a company to begin with, what you were talking about, that ability to be together. Working together gives you a chance to make something more interesting or make that interesting thing more available. And Victor has that. And he has the ego of an auteur, but he has the ability to spread that out through the company.
Yeah, it's a tremendous sense of ensemble that extends beyond the camera. That's
very
true.
If you're not part of it, you're out.
No, that's
not
true.
that they kick you out, you just find yourself out.
Yeah. No, it is a delightful film and a fabulous performance.
Thank you very much.
Now, is there any talk of, say, Oscar nomination? Is anyone talking Oscar nomination?
Has anybody got a piece of wood? Is there an apple box around or something?
We can make things happen here.
Is this wood?
We can make things happen.
Yes, okay.
And there's talk of, or there was talk, you did express a desire to do a brother film with Clint Eastwood. Is this the case?
Yes,
because we can let Clint know on this program if you want to do it.
Where's the red light, Clint? Which one's on?
This will do. This one.
There it is, there it is. Okay, you've heard it here, Clint. And you read about it, but he just came off directing the film, and I'm sure he's not into thinking about what he's going to do next until he's finished that one, although it would be great to work with him. I admire him very much.
In some of the commentary of the film, the reviews and so on, they compare your performance with some of the work that your dad did, and this must come as a bit of a sort of odd turn in your life.
I think it's a compliment.
But when you would have done, say, you know, Easy Rider, that seemed like not a likely thing to happen.
No.
And I was...
But remember the Less is More project. You know, Less was more in Easy Rider, Less was more in Yuli's Gold. And I guess in Hired Hand, I've only, I think, hired myself to do the kind of multidimensional project characters. The studios just see me on the motorcycle smoking pot. This is not what I do.
I believe when you auditioned for this, I mean, you really wanted to do Yuli's Gold, that you had to have a bit of a haircut and a shave. Now, how long was the hair and how big was the beard, Peter, when you first turned up?
Beard was clean. My hair was down to my belt.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah, but it was tied back, you know, so it didn't look weird.
Yeah. Sure.
I didn't...
Until you turned around, people got the shock of their lives.
I had a film, I know, that played down in Australia. Gosh knows if 12 people saw it. It was called Nadja. It was a very avant-garde film. And I had my own long hair flowing. I played Dr. Van Helsing from the Dracula story. It was great. I also got to play Dracula. I got my steak and ate it, too. And I said I was growing my hair, as a matter of fact, to play in a role that I'd written for myself, a Western. And that didn't happen, but I said, I'll keep growing my hair until I'm offered a good role. And I got offered 3 great roles for long hair. It was fun. I did them, and then suddenly Yuli. And I knocked the hair off, and I knocked about 10 years off my age. And I thought, oh, my God, I didn't look 55 when I started. Now I don't look like I'm 50. And how am I going to have a granddaughter who's 14 and a granddaughter who's 10? And way in the back of my mind, a little voice said, it's called acting, Peter. Oh, yeah, I know how to do that. Okay, we're ready.
Now, you live in Montana on a sort of a spread there. Do you actually grow things on it in terms of produce that you sell? I'm not...
No, you got another...
Of course he does. Yeah, I know. There's a beautiful bit of homegrown just by the back door. And
medicinal purposes alone.
No, I meant, you know, like...
Totally, no, I have to tell you, it's a deja vu for me. I was doing the Johnny Carson show when he was on that show, and he said the very same thing. When you grow up there, insinuating, of course, I had all kinds of crops of altering your state of mind, but that wasn't it. I kept looking at the camera and said, they're tomato plants, Dad, don't worry about it. But we don't have horses, we have other people's horses because we don't want to bother with vets and all that. And so it looks great, though. We have like 20 acres.
So this is agistment. You offer things out on agistment.
Well, it's a payment in kind. We take other people's horses and pasture them in our apple orchards and our corrals. And in kind, we get back backstraps from antelope and elk, which are really good tasting meat for the wintertime.
Right, right.
And in the summertime, you drive into the place and you see, my God, this looks beautiful. It's like a Hollywood set because there's fabulous horses just, you know, wandering around chewing grass. Ooh.
Yeah, different sort of grass. Now, you can catch a big brown trout, I understand, from the back door on your property. Is that right?
No, actually, we have a septic tank for those.
Right. Yes. So you get a few rainbow trout.
There's a yeah, eating a lot of beets, I guess so. But in the Yellowstone River, we have German browns, rainbow, and the native cutthroat trout.
Right. And you love fly fishing?
I like fly fishing. I do a catch and release, no barb on the hook.
Almost every guest who comes on this program loves fly fishing. What do you put down that attraction to?
I would like to ask you, how come you have guests who like fly fishing so much? Maybe there's a twist coming in here. What's happening behind me? I need a mirror. It's going to go on with those girls. They're going to sing some song, you know.
Oh, no.
No, they're great.
Yeah.
Well, look, Yuli's Gold opens in Australia this coming week. I think it starts on September the 25th. It's a wonderful film and well worth getting along to see it. And on that cheerful note, it's time to wish Peter all the best for a film future. And I ask all Club Buggery viewers, whether they're at home or here in Ray's big jobby, to get out on the highway on their Harley Hogs as a way of thanking Peter Fonda.
That was the alternative man. Roll a big log, high on the hog, get it all in the can. What motorbike is to Honda is Hollywood and the name Fonda.
Never underestimate the plumbers.
I do such stupid things at the wrong time, in the wrong way, but in the end, I have to say that being wrong is the air that we breathe to live.
The 1997 football year climaxes this week. Tonight we've had a marvellous match in Brisbane, the Super League Grand Final, and the Festival of the Boots, Part 1 and 2 occupy us next weekend. On Saturday, the AFL Grand Final is up for grabs between the Big SK of St Kilda and the travelling Adelaide Crows. And on Sunday, the ARL Grand Final is between Newcastle Knights and the winner of tomorrow's Manly Warringah Sea Eagles v Sydney City Roosters clash. And wherever I've been around the country this week, there's grand final fever bursting out with rabbits running everywhere and spot bushfires erupting. And last Sunday, in the Rugby League, in the game between the Manly Sea Eagles and the Newcastle Knights, the Spit returned to the card. It was tremendous to see the Spit back in action, especially in September. The Manly side, they had claimed after the hooter, well, a couple of days after the hooter, in fact, that they'd been gobbed on by one night in particular. Roy, the Spit as an offensive and defensive weapon in rugby league, how do you see it? How do you use it?
Well, I've always enjoyed spit work, see. Always, Grassy used to say, you know, get them to swallow your snot. We used to time it, or try to time it, early in a match, because you can really get a player upset, offside, off their game. You just time it so when they're, say, playing the ball, they're a bit puffed out early on, you just... And when they go for that... straight in, straight down. You send an oyster south, we used to say. They try to get back at you. You know, I can remember, gee, heaps of times, your face would just be like covered in a stalactites of snot. Snot on it, but you keep your mouth shut. And you just wear it and grin. Because you knew your gear was in their stomach and the amino acids were working away at it. Whereas theirs, you just wipe it off on them the next time that, you know, you came in contact. I've always loved the Spit. I think it's tremendous.
Well, often, Roy, you know, you came back looking like a lemon meringue pie after the game. It was just right out here.
If there was an outbreak of flu.
Roy, you know, who were some of the great...
You just reach for the towel when you got in the dressing room.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Now, who were some of the great exponents of the Spit, apart from yourself, obviously?
Oh, look, most of the players around in those days. See, the spitting was much more common in those days than it is now. Television's really finished spitting off. Yeah. But I always found it an attractive feature of the game. If you couldn't spit, you couldn't play.
Now, would you say...
We'd spend more time training on spitting than most other things. You know, Grassy would have us 30 or 40 metres away. You know?
Up close with a...
That's right. We drink milk. Creamy milk.
2 or 3 days before a match.
Before going out.
When going. Now, you know, is it the worst rugby league offence? I mean, how would you relate it to, say, going head high or going the grope, applying the squirrel, or cruet stomping? I mean, just to set in the context of those 3 or 4 things.
Look, I think spitting's pretty soft, to be frank. I think if you bite a bloke's nose off, I think that's worse.
Yeah, true. I suppose so.
If you nip a bit off a bloke's flute, that can happen. That can happen, you know. You think, what the bloody...
Sorry.
You know,
It's happened
bloke
more
will
often
just
than you'd
gusset running with blood. So I reckon that's bad.
Now,
and you've got to sew it back on, obviously.
as soon as you can.
The coach would, you know.
That'd be expensive after a big
It would be a pretty rough job. But can have its
Probably
advantages because it looks, you know, it has an odd shape about it. You know, something distinctive.
Yeah, conversation starter.
Have you seen my...
Yeah, that's right. When things go quiet in the bedroom, you know, what is that?
That's right. And I felt too, you know, Grassy used to say, if you can pants a player, in front of the grandstand, especially their captain, early on, gives you a great psychological advantage. You know, you just run them over towards the sideline and then shoo, down with the trouser, down with the briefs as well. So they're just left there looking stupid.
Tripping over.
Tripping over.
Trying to grasp you as you scoot down the sideline.
That's right, that's right. So that's... but I think biting the flute I'd put worst, nose second. Gouging, if you gouge and you pull a bloke's eyeball out and get him to look at himself. Having spat in his mouth first. So, and then you push the eyeball over so you can see it going down. If you've got a presence that might have a torch with you.
Yes. Look, the other thing I think...
But they're all great tricks. Tricks you can't get away with these days because of the bloody camera.
And the softness of the game.
That's right. Spoilt football.
Now, the MCC, that's the Melbourne Cricket Club, the body in charge of the MCG, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, where the AFL Grand Final will be next Saturday, are thinking of instituting a ban on smoking in the entire MCG. Now, this has got one prominent Melburnian and Carlton president, John Elliott, very upset. He's threatening to take him to the court, you know, to obviously overturn the suggested ban if it was imposed. Now, Roy, you know, obviously John likes to light up a coffin nail while he's having a look at sport. You know, what satisfaction does he get out of it? I suppose to demonstrate this, we need to pretend that we're looking, say, tonight at the Brisbane Broncos v Cronulla Sharks match, and a bit of a before and after, so...
Well, if Johnny Elliott was looking at it without a fag,
he'd be
a little bit.
like this. Put in, Shark.
Yeah, come on. Go on, E.T.
Yeah. Oh, that was a bit high.
Yeah, offside there.
Yeah.
I think. But get him with a fag.
Yeah. What does it look like then?
Well, it looks good for a start.
Yeah. I know you're an advocate of just having one droop like on the lower lip like this.
Look, I think it looks good.
Do the ABC logo with it.
It's a real...
I don't know if that gets any near where the logo should be. Yeah.
It's a real chick puller, isn't it?
It is.
Just, you give off the pheromone, and you can sort of, you know, gesticulate a little gesture.
You make gesture stabbing it out.
Yeah.
And then what happens when you start watching footy?
Yeah. Well, when you light up, that's your chucking. And smoking look good.
Don't you?
When you get a bit of a fag, you sort of loosen up a little bit, right?
Yeah, so you say, go on, get him off, ref! That was a forward pass! Oh, right. They're on fire tonight, aren't they? Them Broncos. You change your whole perception of it,
doesn't it?
Yeah, you can see why Johnny wants to hang on to the idea.
I used to be able to blow a portrait of John Elliott.
Did you? Oh!
That was it?
Right, if John was denied his, you know, coffin nail while the match was on, do you think he would follow sport?
Without fags?
Yeah.
No, with fags he's nothing.
Yeah.
You know, he's nothing.
Yeah.
You know, he just disappears. It's just a pair of shoes there with a sock in it. Yeah, that's right. You know, a fag gives him life. Yeah, true. Tells you something about his life, doesn't it?
Yeah, life and death at the same time. It's a very interesting idea. And obviously, do you think the Elliott, you know, people's protest vis-a-vis the smoking could get off the ground?
I think people watching tonight would be joining the Elliott charge to get smoking back to the MCG.
Just so they enjoy sport the way John does. Yes, that's right.
It's always good when you talk to someone.
Yeah, what do you think of the match? Put in, you Sharks! Yes. Well, I can see it working. And now, my very good friends, it's time for a little spiritual enlightenment. Yes, our next guests are taking us a little closer to heaven with a tune of trust in the big figure upstairs. Tonight, they're supported by those Dharma bums of rhythm, the brand new Beatles. The offering in the plate, a religious relic plucked from the soul-stirring musical Jesus Christ Superstar in the shape of I Don't Know How to Love Him. Australia, give me your hands, brothers and sisters. Shout Hail Mary and Hallelujah as we welcome to the vestry of variety, the goers of the gospel, the Nissan Cedrics. Yes, that was the Fabio Down Under arrangement. Oh, Down Under and Loving It arrangement of, you know, I Don't Know How to Love Him and the Nissan Cedrics. You can see him at the Continental Cafe in Melbourne this coming week.
Is
on
Fabio
Wednesday.
still here?
Yes, he'll be there on Wednesday night at the Continental Cafe introducing the Ceds.
I read he was very bright.
Yes, yes.
They say he's got an IQ. I was shocked.
So you can see I was struck dumb. Tremendous work from the brand new Beatles there, who are now rightly acknowledged as our #1 soul stirrers. And what about the Nissan Cedrics? Well, they go straight from here to St Paul's to open a divine service for footballers of all faiths. Now, as many of you may have noticed, the Prime Minister is in the Cook Islands, giving the South Pacific Forum mercifully a bit of old-fashioned Larry Dooley, the Australian way. But the subtext of the trip seems to be to snare these Commonwealth Games for Melbourne in the year 2006. Roy, how are we going on the Commie Games front? Is Vunny Bombo still the stumbling block out there in the Pacific?
Well, I think Australia's made those Pacific nations look stupid. We've really got them to toe the line. We've got them eating humble bloody pie because they don't mean a hill of beans, do they?
No.
They don't mean nothing.
Certainly if the ocean rises, we won't see them
Well, they won't be there.
No, that's
They're
right.
not going to be there. They're last year's model. It's all over for your Pacific Island.
But we need their votes for this Commie Games,
Yeah,
Roy.
we'll get them.
Will we?
We'll get them.
Huh?
We've promised, I think we're going to pay $3 million, I think, to have the Olympic torch go via each of the Pacific Islands.
What a tremendous wheeze.
I don't know what
that
they're going to do there. I suppose people will go out and have a look.
is. Queue up. What is it? Oh, bushfire going
Thanks,
by.
Australia. You got my vote. Cool.
Now, I think the important thing here is there's a very prominent Melbourne identity. Ronnie Walker's been over there doing a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yes.
Now, I hope he's spreading largesse around.
Yes, he would be.
And, you know, obviously offering people a lot of things that they won't know what to do with once the torch goes by, so
That's
to
right.
speak, to secure these votes.
Vunny Bombo, here you go, fella.
Have you
There's a
seen
brown
it?
paper bag.
Don't look at it now.
There are some Arnott's biscuits in there.
That's right.
And a bit of cash.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how it works.
Yeah, that's right. And would you like a soccer ball? A Socceroos soccer ball.
That's right.
Don't know what you're going to do with it, but just have it. And
That's the way it works. Yeah, I know, we've made them look real stupid.
have we got them on board? Are they putting their hands up for us?
I think so.
Oh, thank Christ. 2006 in Melbourne, salute
It's
you,
on.
the Commie Games. And now it's time to welcome to the Bug House a woman who has bagged silver at the recent Worlds in Athens. Yes, the night of the long spear continues here on Club Buggery. Nissan Cedrics, can you take a bead? Can you sprint down the runway and let go with a big stick and give us the Joanna Stone story?
Pick up the stick, run down the track, give it a hike, then stand back. See it's javelin, she's throwing the javelin. Miss through the air, this is the pick. Joanna Stone making it stick. Yeah, Joanna Stone making it stick. Joanna Stone, she makes the stick stick.
Yes, Joanna, thanks very much for coming in. And let's set the scene here with a bit of a clip of you in action with the javelin. Let's go back to Athens, where you bagged silver with this throw. I think we've got it coming up now. Here you are, obviously gathering your thoughts, your takeoff. You think you might be able to do a bit better than the other two, which might have been personal bests in the competition. You let it fly.
That's
You're
a throw.
pretty happy with it, and way out there it goes, and it's a silver medal winning throw in the World's Athletics competition just a couple of weeks ago. As we watch it in
That's a
replay
great
again,
picture.
and there's a picture of you behind yourself doing it, which is pretty interesting. And you look pretty pleased with it. It keeps going up as though it's never going to come down, but then it turns around and comes down. Now, with this gravity, I think they call it. You, I think, were disappointed with your effort in Atlanta, and yet you've made you know, quite a rapid improvement to finish second at the Worlds. What caused that change? What was going wrong in Atlanta?
Well, Atlanta I was shattered by. I was really disappointed with my performance in Atlanta. I went over there ranked very high in the world, so I expected to come out of there a finalist and even perhaps a medalist. So I was really disappointed with it. The biggest two differences, I think, between Atlanta and Athens was, one, my preparation. Prior to Atlanta, I was fraught with injury, which hampered my preparation, obviously, quite a bit. And leading up to Athens, my preparation was spot on. At the track with my then coach, Michael Frawley, we'd done a lot of good work, and that was great. I'd also, my now coach, my current coach, Kelvin Giles, he actually had written my program for the 6 months leading up to Athens, which had given me an enormous amount of direction. That was a really big influencing factor in Athens. But also, I think a very big thing was the belief in myself. Like I had, after Atlanta, I really needed to get rid of that ghost. And when I went to Athens, I just believed that I could do it. What
sort of injuries did you have? It's not a contact sport. Javelin throwing, did you spear yourself in the foot, or had a couple of accidents backing into a couple of, you know, spears on the top of the ute or something like that?
No. Actually, javelin's really quite harsh on the body, and my technique in Atlanta, or leading up to Atlanta, and even leading up to Athens, wasn't as good as it could have been, and I'd put quite a lot of stress on my shoulder and my elbow. Right. So leading up to Atlanta, yeah, I had a lot of shoulder problems. And
it's obviously a technique, but there's something about the mind, isn't it? How much do you have to forget the technique and concentrate on just doing it? Meaning that, you know, that you can't keep improving the technique, and yet you obviously improve in the throwing. Well,
no, that's not quite true. Right. I think with any athlete, the moment you think you're perfect is the moment that you start making mistakes. Right. So, I mean, there's always areas to fine-tune with any sport, and especially with the javelin, because it's a highly technical sort of an event. I've forgotten the question.
No, that's right. You did pretty well.
You're doing well.
Pretty well.
Well, my coach... No, speaking of technique, I'm sure you had a point. Speaking of technique, my coach used to say to me, Roy, if you can be outside yourself and be watching yourself while you throw, you can keep an eye on your technique. Have you found this useful at all, Joanna?
Well, it's something that I think every athlete goes through, and it's really quite difficult to explain. When I throw and when I throw well, I generally have this incredible awareness of what my body's doing, like what every part of my body is doing. And when I think back on every good throw that I've had, it's been, I remember it as being outside of myself, watching myself throw. And it's not so much because javelin is quite a fast event, like it's over very quickly. I don't think it's so much an out-of-body experience, except that I get this amazing awareness of what everything's doing.
So everything else is blocked out. It's just you and your body and the javelin. And that's it. Now, what sort of things come into play? The runway's got to be, you know, nice, and there must be variations of runway. The atmosphere can affect you. The wind can affect you.
Yep.
What else comes into play? Is that about it?
Well, I think every athlete has, you know, quite a weight on their shoulder in relation to expectations that they have on themselves, and expectations that you know, all of Australia have on them as well, family, friends. Yeah. You know, that's quite a big thing for any sports person, and it's really a matter of dealing with that. And you know, it can either make or break an athlete, depending on how they deal with that.
Now, what's the rule? What if the javelin doesn't stick in? What if it skids? What happens then?
The javelin only has to come down point first. It doesn't have to make a mark. It doesn't actually have to stick into the ground, as long as it comes down point first. So the judges really have to get down sometimes on hands and knees to see whether or not...
To see whether grass has been displaced. Is that right?
Well, the grass is going to be displaced whichever way it lands.
Yes.
But it's got to land point first, but it doesn't have to actually make a mark.
Now, I noticed with the Worlds, I think you missed out on the gold by about 14 centimetres. Is that right? It's about that long. About that long. And if you had a look at yourself then, running down, you propped up short about that bloody far from the line.
I know.
Now, had you bloody, when you get there, go to the mark and walk back to the point and establish your point, so that when you come down, you'll stop right within that much. I mean, that's what... I mean, had you done that, you'd have had the bloody gold medal, Joanna.
Look,
Has anyone ever pointed this out? I mean, there's no use throwing the bloody thing from the car park. Go right up to the line.
I will. Next time.
Did your coach have anything to say about that?
A couple of people have said it to me, but you can't possibly gauge that. If I'd have been that close, I could have been that close to fouling too.
Well, of course,
So-
but isn't that... I mean, you get 3 shots at it, so you foul twice.
Six, actually.
Well, 6 bloody shots. What if you foul 5 times? And it really puts people off. If you run right through it, say 20 or 30 metres, and hurl the bloody thing right up the buggery, your opponents... Because they don't know where you've thrown it from. They just look around to see where it's landed, and they think, God almighty, she's gone 40 metres beyond me.
All right, I'll take that into account next time.
One thing with the expectations you set on yourself, I mean, you broke your personal best a number of times in that competition. Now, I mean, I was trying to think of, you know, next time you go into it, you've got this enormous, like the next time you go into a competition, you've got this enormous baggage of thinking, bloody hell, I'm really good at this. I'm going to break my personal best several more times and obviously win, plus taking on board Roy's thoughts about where to put it and the tactics, that's what Roy's talking about.
Attack the line, attack the line.
Yeah, that's right. But you can't keep going, can you, at that? And so it gets to a stage where you have to, what, be disappointed or just be philosophical about it?
Well, yeah, philosophical to a certain degree, but I mean, I've got an enormous, and still enormous areas for improvement. So, you know, I truly believe that I can certainly throw over 70 metres, and there's going to come a time, obviously, where my personal best, I'm not going to be breaking it, and you know, I've thrown as far as I can possibly throw, but I'm not even close to that yet, so I'm not even thinking about it.
Joanna, are you a compulsive thrower? Like, in the backyard, do you just pick up rocks and have bets? Like, I bet I can hit that telegraph pole and stuff like that. I mean...
I did as a kid. I did.
You're always throwing things?
Yeah, I was always a good ball thrower, softballer, that sort of thing as a kid.
Skimming stones, you good at that?
Yeah, I enjoy doing that. Got a fast arm.
Now, you work for the Queensland Police Force.
I certainly do.
Are the police force sympathetic to your interest in javelin throwing and give you time off or allow you to accrue overtime or whatever it is that allows you to go and train or go to competitions and so on?
They've been very, very supportive, especially over the last couple of years since I've been competing internationally. They've been quite flexible with my shift work and stuff like that. So, yeah, they've been terrific. And
are there many high-profile sporting people who work for the Queensland Police Force?
Well, there was in the past. Mal Meninga, you know, quite a few footballers.
And have they ever explored the idea of your skill being used to trap criminals? I cite this because we've unearthed this magnificent piece of footage we'd like you to take back. I'm not sure, is it Russell Cooper, who's your Minister of Police up there? Get him to have a look at this and see if he can't provide you with something to do on the job. Here we go, straight, bang! Now, I can see you. Would you like to look at that again? I think there's a lot of wisdom in having a look at this again. I don't know whether we can do this. I think we might be able to do this again. Just have a look at this. Obviously, the criminal running away there, somebody with a javelin, throws it in the air, bang! Now, I can see you penciled in for the 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock shift, or maybe the midnight to 6 o'clock shift, round, say, some of the malls in...
Fortitude Valley.
Fortitude Valley, just with a quiver, up there, crime on the move, whack, up there against the wall. I mean, it's an old technique. I know it's been tried in the past, but maybe we have to go back to basics with some of these things.
Maybe it's something I need to take up with the Commissioner.
Yes.
Have you ever pulled up someone short by, you know, throwing handcuffs at them or hit them on the back of the neck as they...
No. Look, I'm not very accurate with the javelin, actually. I think it'd be an accident if I hit somebody.
Well,
I can throw it a long way, but I'm not very accurate at all.
Now, a lot of track sports, hang on, a lot of throwing sports have been dominated by European nations, and there's been a lot of suggestions of drug abuse and so on, since we've tackled this with Peter Fonda earlier.
Yeah.
He was very forthcoming. How do you think the sport's going, or this part of sport is going at the moment with regard, you know, drug abuse on the part of athletes?
Well, to be honest, I think I think back in sport, back in say the mid-80s, is very different in relation to drugs than it is nowadays in the 90s. You know, back in the 80s, it was pretty rife. You know, I look at, for example, the women's javelin. The world record was set in 1988, and it's 80 metres. No, it's not close to being broken, and you know, I'm certainly not saying that she was on drugs, but
Of course she was on drugs. She must have been on drugs.
But the girls were throwing, I mean, 75 to 80 metres back then, and you know, they were very big throws. But you know, I truly believe that with the drug testing that's around, I mean, I wouldn't be so naive as to say there's no drugs in sport. I'd love to think that there wasn't, but yeah, I mean, it's very different now, I think, especially with the women's javelin, than it was back in the 80s.
Yeah. And obviously we have to ask about Sydney 2000. You'll be there.
Yes, I will.
You'll be getting closer to the line.
Yes, I'll be
would you
finishing spot on the line.
Right, just a millimetre.
Just a bee stick.
Yeah. What? Just a bee stick. That's exactly right.
And you're obviously hoping to go one step further than the world. Just give us a quick idea of the steps between now and Sydney 2000 as far as competition goes for you.
Yeah, sure. Next year, I've got the domestic season, obviously, in Australia. From there, I'll be doing the European Grand Prix circuit, where javelin, for women's javelin, is a Grand Prix event. Which means there's a little bit of money up for grabs as well, which will help me out along the way. Commonwealth Games in September, you know, that's a very big deal. 1999 World Championships in Seville, and then the 2000 Olympics. So there's quite a few stepping stones for me along the way.
Not much time to put some prisoners behind bars, Joanna.
No, not a great deal. I actually haven't been out on the street for quite some time. That's the part of policing that I love. I love being out there with the community and dealing with the public and dealing with the not so nice people. But because of obviously my sport, I really don't want to be doing shift work and on my feet all day, so I'm actually sitting behind a desk at the moment.
No, well, thanks for coming in this evening and helping us with our inquiries. And on that cheerful note, it's time to wish Joanna a golden future, and I ask all Club Buggery viewers, whether here in Ray's Big Jobby or there at home, to set a personal best by swinging the cat as a way of thanking Joanna Stone.
Best through the air. This is the pick. Joanna Stone making it stick. Yeah, Joanna Stone making it stick. Joanna Stone, she makes the stick stick.
Yes, so now we come to that moment in the show where we celebrate your endeavour with the threads here in Ray's Big Jobby. Yes, once again, it's time for This Is Living. Before we go to this week's deliriously happy winners, let's have a look at who greeted the judge this time last week in the Bughouse. Roy.
It was, yes, Saffron and Simon, there they are. They went off to the Lipizzaner horses to look at a lot of stupid horses doing drug-induced things by the looks of things. If you wanted to see horses being tortured, that was the place to go. They had a great time. Look at this, in Mufti, out and about. Horse doesn't know what's going on, completely off its face. Beautiful to watch.
This is living.
Especially for the horses.
And this week the prizes continue. There's the Roy and HG hat. There's the Nissan Cedric CD going for a song. And, of course, your all-meat, your very popular all-meat boxer. Wonderful wearing at this time of year with the warmer weather about to hit us. Roy, plus a very biggie.
Yes, we're sending the happy couple, HG, off to Lucas Heights to have a look at a nuclear reactor. Look at that. The cleanest nuclear reactor. Look at that modern technology. You can fiddle about with isotopes. You can have a great time. Go to the cafeteria and come out as fat as you like. And then stay at the Lucas Heights Motel. What a night and day that is going to be. Because, where's our product shot here, Roddy? Here we are. Ah, yes, because this is living.
This is living. This is living.
G'day, how are you? What's your name?
Heather.
Heather.
And Paul.
Heather and Paul, you do look fabulous in your Australian-made gear.
Thanks, Roy.
Have you thought of fuel before? Are you conscious of nuclear work?
Not this week.
Have you ever wanted to glow in the dark? Well, you kiddies. You've got it. You've done it. Enjoy it, because
This is living.
Oh, yeah.
I do such stupid things at the wrong time, in the wrong way, but in the end, I'd have to say that being stupid's the air that I breathe to live.
Yes, and the Club Buggery National Poll continues. Roy, last week we set the nation a stumper. How did they respond?
It was Rob Borbidge's. Let's have a look. A, B, C, or D. Let's have a look at how it went. A dangerously stupid goose. 98%. 2% said he was competent. So,
I think it's fair to say we the biggest response we ever had.
It is.
This week's stumper, Roy,
We had about
is...
8 million, I think.
Oh,
on
yeah,
that
8
one.
million.
About 8 million. I'm sure Rob would be very interested in that. And thanks, Rob. This week, HG, the question is as follows. Which TV station smells the most? A, 10, B, 7, C, ABC, D, Fox, E, Optus, F, SBS, or G, Channel 9.
And where do they send the responses, Roy?
ABC Club Buggery, GPO Show Box 994, Sydney, New South Wales, 2001.
And so do we come to the end of another show. Roy, where are you off to in the current set of 7, or the coming set of 7?
Yes, actually, I'm going to Darling Harbour for the 2GB Legends of Fishing promotion. This is in aid of the Autistic Association of New South Wales, HG. Bob Lloyd's going to be there. Steve Starling from the Rex Hunt Show.
Pull 'em.
Oh, he can pull a fish.
Oh,
Without a rod.
They just love to get on the end.
Phil Atkinson, it's going to be a trip. That's on Saturday, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. Sorry, just Saturday, Sunday and Monday this week. And as well, I'm going to see the Newcastle University Choir and Orchestra. Peter Brock is conducting, HG. This is the final performance from Peter Brock. As you know, he's retired.
Yeah, he's retired.
Retired from driving and retired. Now, it's a different bloke. He's a tremendous bloke. This is the Dreams of Gerontius that he'll be conducting. In very speed. He goes very quickly to begin with, slows down for bits, sometimes stops, pulls in for a little while, 4-second break, off again. That's the great Peter Brock. Peter, we've admired your work for years. Congratulations and thank you.
And look, I'm off to a celebration of coexistence tomorrow at the Treasury Gardens in Melbourne. It starts at 12 noon, presented by Francis Leach and Tony Biggs. Now, painters and dockers will be there, Overnight Jones, Tommy Lewis and friends, Anthony Morgan, women in uniform, more people than you can poke a stick at. And if you do look in the Treasury Gardens, just as you go in, look down behind the gate. There's a lovely stash of homegrown there that...
Peter Fonda style.
Yeah, Peter Fonda planted it on his last trip here, and it's just beautiful. As we sign off from Ray's Big Jobby, Roy and I'd like to thank Peter Fonda, Joanna Stone, the Nissan Cedrics, the brand new Beatles, Ian Terps, Toby, and you, the audience, whether here in the Jobby or there at home on the stroll, pole and hole. Thanks once again for taking an interest in variety. Finally, it's time for Act 26 on the 1997 Battle of the Sounds. Tonight, the second last offering in the battle, and we've saved the biggest and best until last. Yes, with the grand finals just around the corner, tonight's offering, I'll Be Around, would grace any festival of the boot blow-off. Australia, can you go the squirrel and scream with delight as you welcome to the Bug House, Mr. Doug Parkinson. See you next week, customers.
This is our fork in the road. Love's last episode. There's no way to go. And you had your chance. yes, I will. Shoot it in the mother. Thank you very much.